Morning. Sunday, September 3rd, 2023. My book, Baseball's Top 5 Player List. Yearly leaders of every batting category. I've been doing a series of videos on these topics in baseball offensive categories. Home runs, batting average, runs scored, runs batted in, triples, doubles, singles, total bases, slugging, on base, base on ball, stolen bases. I did videos on all these, who landed in the top 5 in all these categories for a season, the top 5 players from both the National and American League combined. Get all the players together, the top 5 who were the leaders. I covered all the offensive categories I just mentioned. This video hits, base hits. Who landed in the top 5 in a season for the most hits most hits? You want to know who the record holders are? For career, we know Pete Rose, 4,256. Ty Cobb, 4,189. Henry Aaron, 3,771. Stan Musial, 3,630. Tris Speaker, 3,514. Top 5. No dispute. For a season, Ichiro Suzuki, 262 in one season. He did it. He broke a record. He had 8 more games than George Sisler, who's number 2, 257. For a long time, he held the record, 257 hits. Ichiro plays 8 more games, gets 262. If George Sisler played 8 more games, that would have been, let's say he got a hit a game. Just one, but a lot of times he got 2 or 3 a game. Let's say he got 8. He would have ended up at 265. But Suzuki has the record. Third place, Lefty O'Doul, 254. Bill Terry, 254. And Al Simmons, 253. But I'm interested in the top 5 for a season. And who did it the most? Ty Cobb, 13 times, landed in the top 5, combining all the players in baseball from the National American League, all combined as one. 13 times he was in the top 5. Sometimes number 1, number 2, number 3. But as far as hits in a season, him and Pete Rose also did it 13 times. Pete Rose had 10 200-hit seasons. Willie Keeler, 11 times. Ichiro Suzuki, 10 times. So these 4 guys, Cobb, Rose, Keeler, and Suzuki, have double digits landing in the top 5 for base hits in a season. Incredible. Are these the best hitters of all time? Could be. So Cobb, 13, Pete Rose, 13, Willie Keeler, 11, and Ichiro Suzuki, 10 times. The rest of these guys are single digits. Cap Hansen, Stan Musial, and Sam Crawford, 8 times. Tony Gwynn, Jesse Burkett, Nap Lajoie, Tris Speaker, Paul Molitor, 7 times. The rest of these guys, let's see, Deacon White, George Sisler, Joe Jackson, Paul Wainer, Nellie Fox, Henry Aaron, Wade Boggs, Kirby Puckett, Derek Jeter, 6 times. And the rest of these guys did it 5 times. Cal McFay, Abner Darrell Ample, Hugh Duffy, Hans Wagner, Roger Hornsby, Bill Terry, Veda Pinson, Roberto Clemente, Lou Brock, Steve Garvey, Harvey Quinn, and Ross Barnes all did it 5 times. Top 5 base hits. Pete Rose and Ty Cobb can lay claim of landing in the top 5 in base hits in a season the most? Of course, they played a long time. Ty Cobb played 24 years. So did Pete Rose. So if you play a long time, you're going to rack up a lot of career hits. But to land in the top 5 most hits in a season 13 times, incredible. That will do it for this book I have, landing in the top 5. All those offensive categories that I mentioned. Toward the end of the book, I have an epilogue. I list the top 54 players who were incredible in offensive categories. What I did was I added as one number all these categories: home runs, batting average, runs scored, runs batted in, triples, doubles, singles, total bases, slugging, on base, base on balls, stolen bases, and hits. I added their best production as one number. Let me explain myself. Maybe you're not following. All these offensive categories, how many times did a certain player land in the top 5 in each category? It was a really interesting endeavor. Do you know that the one player who landed in the top 5 in all of these categories at least one time, and of course, multiple times in certain categories, but you got to get in each category at least once in order to make the top 54. Do you know who had the highest score when you add all the offensive categories of how many times they landed in the top 5? For example, in the home run category, how many times did you land there? Babe Ruth landed there 16 times, so that's 16. And then you go to the next category, batting average, how many times for Ruth? 6. Runs scored, 10. Runs batted in, 11. Triples, never landed in the top 5. Doubles, 3 times. Singles didn't land in the top 5. But total bases, 9 times. Slugging, 15. On base, 15. Base on balls, 14. Stolen bases, 0. So, there are only, Babe Ruth landed in the top 5 in a lot of categories, but not in triples, singles, or stolen bases. So that's 3 categories he didn't do it. Ty Cobb, on the other hand, listen to this. There were 5 players, Ty Cobb's one of them, landed in the top 5 in all these categories at least once. All the rest of these guys, they missed a category here or there. You want to know these 5 guys are? Ty Cobb, Tris Speaker, Ed Delante, Willie Mays, and Jim O'Rourke. Those are the 5 guys that landed in the top 5 at least one time. Of course, many times in a category, they did it multiple times. But at least once in all of these categories, they did it once. In home runs, batting average, runs scored, runs batted in, triples, doubles, singles, total bases, slugging, on base, base on balls, stolen bases, and hits. At least once in all of them. Babe Ruth couldn't do it. Ted Williams couldn't do it. Stan Musial couldn't do it. Lou Gehrig couldn't even do it. Cap Hansen couldn't do it. But Ty Cobb, Tris Speaker, Ed Delante, Willie Mays, and Jim O'Rourke did it. Let me give you an example. Ty Cobb landed in the top 5 in home runs at one time. One time he was in the top 5 in home runs. Batting average 16 times, runs scored 11, runs batted in 7, triples 6, doubles 6, singles 11, total bases 11, slugging 15. 15 times he landed the top 5 in slugging. 14 times on base. Base on balls, he did it once. At stolen bases 8 times. And in hits, 13 times. So what do? You add all the numbers of the times they did it in each category. Following me? So his total score, if you add up all the times in each category, he had 120. That was number 1. As far as the top 54, his score was 120. Number 1, Ty Cobb. Home runs 1 time, batting average 16. So you get 1 plus 16, and then you add all the rest. Runs scored 11, runs batted in 7 times, triple 6, double 6, singles 11, total bases 11, 15 slugging, 14 on base, 1 time base on ball, stolen bases 8 times, 13. Add up all those numbers. 1 plus 16 plus 11 plus 7 plus 6 plus 6. Plus 11, plus 11, plus 15, plus 14, plus 1, plus 8, plus 13. Add up all those numbers. That's 120. Number 1, Ty Cobb. Incredible. So I list at the back of this book 54 players who landed in the top 5 and what were their high scores. Like I told you, Babe Ruth, out of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13 categories you could possibly land in. Babe Ruth had 10 categories where he had a number. There are only 3 he didn't. Triples, never did it. Singles, never did it. And stolen bases, never in the top 5. Also in hits, here's another one. I'm looking at this. So there are 4 categories for Babe Ruth where he did not land in the top 5. But in these other categories, he just dominated. 16 times home runs, batting average 6, runs scored 10, runs batted in 11, doubles 3, total bases 9, slugging 15, on base 15, base on balls 14. So we add up all those numbers, he comes in number 2, 99. 99 was his total score. I told you Ty Cobb's total score was 120. Babe Ruth, 99. Second place. Who's third place? Ted Williams. Score of a 90s. Stan Musial's 4, 89 score. Luke Gehrig is 5, 86 score. These are players, the top 54, landed in the top 5 in a certain category, and how many times they did it, and you add their score. Following? Hope it's not confusing. So I list all 54 players. You want to know them? Won't take long. I won't list how many times they landed in a category, but I will list their total score and to give you the order of these guys. My whole focus with this book was who landed in the top 5 in a category and how many times did they do it. That was my whole focus of writing the book. And it was interesting to find out who are the greatest players of all time. Like I mentioned, Ty Cobb, Chris Speaker, Ed Delante, Willie Mays, and Jim O'Rourke. These are the 5 guys that landed in the top 5 in at least one time in 13 offensive categories. How about that? Only 5. 5 players. But I list 54 players in their order of score. And that you can determine where the certain player landed in the top 54. Ty Cobb's number 1. Babe Ruth 2. Okay, and I'll go on until 54. Ted Williams, Stan Musial, Lou Gehrig, top 5. Camp Hansen, Tris Speaker, Henry Aaron, Ed Delante, Honus Wagner, top 10. Dan Brothers, Willie Mays, Roger Hornsby, Ed Collins, Barry Bonds, 15 players. Pete Rose, Jimmy Fox, Nap Lajoie, Ross Barnes, Jim O'Rourke, 20. Sam Crawford, Roger Connor, Mickey Mantle, Joe Jackson, Willie Keeler, 25. That's the top 25. Billy Hamilton, Wade Boggs, Richie Henderson, Albert Pujols, and George Sisler, 30. Joe DiMaggio, Todd Helton, Hugh Duffy, Mike Schmidt, Miguel Cabrera, 35. Deacon White, Hank Greenberg, Mike Trout, Frank Robinson, Jesse Burkett, 40. Tony Gwynn, Rod Carew, Harry Stovey, Al Simmons, Alex Rodriguez, 45. Sam Thompson, Lou Brock, Duke Snyder, Paul Wainer, Harry Heilman, 50. And then Mel Ott, Johnny Mize, Chuck Klein, and Harmon Killebrew, top 54. I told you Ty Cobb's score was 120 if you add up all the numbers. Number 54, Harmon Killebrew, his score is 30. So you can see from number 1 being the highest score and number 54 being the lowest. Ty Cobb has a score of 120, and Harmon Killebrew, number 54, has a score of 30. The rest of these guys, I added their numbers and ranked them according to the number. What do you think? And then at the end of this book, people always ask me, who are my top 10 favorite players of all time? That's easy. It's really easy. Because if you do a lot of baseball research and look at baseball reference guides, and look at the numbers, look at the years, look at the at-bats, look at the categories, look at the top fives, you can come up with 10 solid players that can be arguably the best of all time. And for me, it's easy. Babe Ruth's number 1. I put Lou Gehrig number 2. He played 17 years. He plays 20, 24. He has numbers that surpass a lot of other guys. I put Cobb number 3. He played the 24 years. I put Aaron 4. Stan Musial, I put him 5 in my list. Ted Williams 6. Why do you put Stan Musial ahead of Ted Williams? Stan accomplished more. Ted had the homers, the RBIs, and the walks, but he missed 4 or 5 years. Musial has way more hits than Ted Williams. Doesn't have as many home runs, but he has more RBIs. Yeah, that can be interchangeable, Ted Williams or Stan Musial. So he's number 6. I put Willie Mays number 7. Put Roger Hornsby number 8. Hornsby has a better batting average than Willie Mays, but Mays has more homers and RBIs. I put Ed Delonte number 9 on my list. Why? He had potential. Played 15 years. Did you know he averaged 1.41 hits per game, which was number 1 of all the players in baseball history? He had the most hits average per game played. 1,890 games played, and he gets 2,500 hits. More than 1 hit per game average. 1.41 was the highest. I went through all the guys and figured out what was their average of hits per game. Ed Delonte became number 1. So he had the potential. Also, he batted 403 times, and he had a 346 lifetime batting average. This guy was a hitter. Didn't hit as many home runs. He had a good ratio of runs scored and runs batted in. He's way up there as far as, why would I put Ed Delonte number 9? Because of potential. And then number 10, I got to put Tony Gwynn. That's my 10th favorite player of all time. So my list are my favorites. Now, as far as rank in baseball history, that can be debatable. Who's above one or the other? I mean, where are you going to put Joe DiMaggio, Honus Wagner, and all these other guys in the top 10, right? Hank Greenberg. You've got Joe Jackson. For me, the top 10, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Ty Cobb, Henry Aaron, Stan Musial. And then Ted Williams, Willie Mays, Roger Hornsby, Ed Delonte. I know it's, why am I putting him in there? If you study his career, you may agree with me. And then Tony Gwynn, number 10. My honorable mentions, these guys can be interchangeable as far as my favorites. Pete Rose, Honus Wagner, Joe DiMaggio, Tris Speaker, George Sisler, Jimmy Fox, Mickey Mantle, Nap Lajoie, Sam Thompson, Dan Brothers, Rod Carew, Camp Hansen, Eddie Collins, Paul Wainer, Roberto Clemente, Paul Molitor, Kirby Puckett, Jesse Burkett, Hank Greenberg, Hugh Duffy, and Harry Heilman. All these guys are my favorites too. I mean, I'm leaving out some guys I know. But if you were to ask me to list the top 10 or the top 20 or the top 25, these are the guys that I would go with. So that's my book, Baseball's Top 5 Player List. It's fun writing it. Let's see. 467 pages. Labor of love. Now I have some breaking news. This book focuses on hitters. I wrote another book. I focused on pitchers. And I will get into that next time on my video. Baseball's top 5 pitching leaders. And I came up with 5 or 6 pitching categories. Who landed in the top 5 the most? You'll be surprised to see who made the list and who are the greatest pitchers of all time. Thanks for watching here. I'm out.